Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. We begin with breaking news out of Winnipeg at this hour. Manitoba's Chief Justice handed down a guilty verdict this morning in the trial of Jeremy Skibicki. Skibicki admitted to killing 4 Indigenous women, but his defense team was claiming he was not criminally responsible due to mental illness. Judge Glenn Joyal sided with the Crown in the case. TR Wheatley joins us live from the courthouse now. TR.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. It was just moments ago that family and people started coming outside of the courthouse. Earlier, Crown had asked for sentencing to be held at a later date so that family members and community members alike could have time to provide statements, impact statements. Earlier inside, Judge Glenn Joyal told the packed courtroom that Jeremy Skibicki's defense team did not prove he was suffering from a mental illness at the time of the killings. Now, in May 2022, Skibicki was arrested after body parts of Rebecca Contois were found in a back alley, in a garbage bin in his back alley of his apartment. Skibicki later confessed during a police interrogation to also killing Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and a yet-to-be unidentified woman given the name Mashkude Bizikwe, also known as Buffalo Woman, from the community. In his findings, the judge said that the Crown proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Skibicki willingly killed all 4 women. He agreed with the Crown that they were racially motivated, and when the judge handed down his decision, the courtroom burst into a loud cheer. Now, there are still people out here, but there is a plan to meet at Portage and Main later this afternoon for a round dance. I'll have more for you tonight on APTN National News. Back to you in the studio, Dennis.
Thanks, TR. TR, as she mentioned, we'll have much more tonight. Some additional details I can share with you. Family members of Morgan Harris and First Nations leaders will be speaking in Montreal at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch that live on our APTN News YouTube page, and of course that round dance planned for 2 p.m. Winnipeg time. Well, we'd like to hear your thoughts on today's verdict or anything else you'd like to reach out about. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, you can send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. To Montreal now, where for the first time since becoming Conservative Party leader, Pierre attended this year's Assembly of First Nations AGA, now in its final day. However, he was met with mixed reception by chiefs at the Assembly. Creason Ashkate brings us an update.
Conservative Party leader Pierre was told to educate himself by the chiefs this morning for not mentioning his action plan for MMIWG and not recognizing residential school survivors during his morning keynote address to the chiefs. Poilievre was also questioned why he did not mention a plan to address climate change and was told not to commercialize the lands and resources for infrastructure and jobs. Several leaders and veterans also chose to stand and show Poilievre their backs during his speech. If he is to become the next Prime Minister, Poilievre talked about conservative values being the same as Indigenous values. He promised to cut the bureaucratic red tape to streamline much-needed infrastructure projects in First Nations. He wants to make sure the revenue made from the resources will go directly towards First Nations first and help build more housing and bring down the cost of food in the north, among many other promises.
This is my first meeting with you in person, but I hope it will be the first of many. I want the next generation of Canada and the next government that I hope to have the privilege to lead to build a genuine partnership with First Nations, a nation-to-nation relationship based on the recognition of rights and mutual respect.
His speech ended with some chiefs shouting at Poilievre that if he is to become Prime Minister, he needs to answer more questions. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was up next and used much of his time to discredit everything Poilievre said and advised the chiefs not to trust him. He then noted a list of accomplishments the NDP has helped with for Indigenous people. He also offered to stay longer for more questions from the chiefs, which was met with cheers and applause. Here is what one of the AFN participants had to say who gave Poilievre his back alongside a First Nation veteran, along with comments from Jagmeet Singh on Poilievre.
I saw the veteran standing with his back to Pierre Poilievre. That's when I started. I could feel my Two-Spirit ancestors were like, you got to do something as well, because Pierre Poilievre has publicly attacked our Two-Spirit community and members of our Two-Spirit community, and he hides behind parental rights. So I talked to members of my council, I talked to the Women's Council who were sitting behind me, and my aunties were like, go stand beside him.
Clearly he's not someone that's going to stand on the side of Indigenous people. And I feel like it was obvious in the room. The chiefs and the leadership knew that as well. They knew that the Conservatives, specifically Pierre Poilievre, did not actually come with a real message that connected with what they're going through. It's clear who he is. He's shown who he is to Indigenous people multiple times.
More resolutions will be discussed this afternoon on fisheries, education, and treaty, along with reaction from the Harris family on the Skitzki decision. Christian Ajkate, APTN National News, Montreal.
Police in Winnipeg say a man from Nunavut who was reported missing last week has been found dead. They are not saying how he died. On Tuesday, Winnipeg police announced they located the body of 24-year-old Johnny Aragutinak of Sanikiluak, Nunavut. They said foul play is not suspected. Johnny's mother told the CBC that her family had been in Winnipeg since March because of a family member's medical needs. The Winnipeg Police Service said that Aragutinak was last seen July 3rd in the Polo Park area. Winnipeg police did not say where the body was found, nor whether the cause of death was determined. A giant in the art world has passed away. We'll have more on the death of Alex John Vier after the break. Welcome back. A teen from St. Teresa Point, Anishinaabe Nation, has already checked off an item on his bucket list. He opened up for one of his favorite pop rock bands during the 42nd annual Bannock Festival. While the young man likes doing covers to get the crowd going, it's writing his own music that helps him through isolation. Here's the first perspective from him and his number one fan, his mom.
My name is Baron Mason. I go by Baron May. And I'm 16 years old and I come from here, St. Teresa Point, Manitoba. Feeling nervous, I guess, because this is a really huge thing for me and for the boys. We're opening up for Marianas Trench, so we just kind of assembled. We're still youth, and we're doing these things. And not much youth get to do this, especially as Native. This festival has been going on for about 4 to 2 years already, and counting. It'll just keep on going like that. All sorts of people come from around Island Lake just to come here to Bannock Festival. We're playing 5 songs. Two of them which is covers. That is Begging and Creep.
How many people showed up?
I don't know why there's so much people. I don't know if people knew me.
Go to sleep tight.
What inspires you for your writing?
For my writing, it was because I went through a hard time. And it was just a way to let it all out.
Treat it like gold, treat it like gold.
My name is Vina Mason. I am Baron May's mom.
Yeah, you were front row for your son. You look so happy.
Yes, I was so excited. It's really good to see our young people get a chance to perform a big band. He sang 3 of his original songs. And yeah, he made these songs for himself, and I'm very proud of him.
I decided to make a song about with the way that I see women too. They're nice, they're kind, but they can also take that away right away, which makes them really powerful. So you don't play with the women.
Me and my husband are really strong in our traditional ways. I know my son is a really humble man. I mean, boy, I should say. His dad is really a humble man too, so he carries that with his dad. And he got a booking to go to Edmonton for the K-Days, I believe, and so he'll be going there July 21st to support him. Even my extended family, my mom, my sister, we try to go to these places with him.
Laugh it out loud, cherishing these beautiful nights.
I'll enjoy the show.
And one day I'll see you with a Grammy in your hand?
Maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
Manifest it. Say, I will get a Grammy. Say it.
Okay, I will get a Grammy.
Right on. Thank you so much.
What a great opportunity for Baron. I'm sure not the last time we'll be hearing from them. Thanks to TR Wheatley and summer student Zach Bowser for capturing his performance for us. Join us again tomorrow to see why it was important to give the youth from St. Teresa Point VIP access to Marianas Trench. The prolific First Nation artist Alex John Vier has died at the age of 89. John Vier, a member of the Cold Lake First Nation in Alberta, was part of the Indian Group of 7 with artists like Norval Morrisseau and Jackson Beardy. As a painter, he was known for using a rainbow of colors and flowing lines, harmonizing Dene Suline imagery with a modernist style. His work has been showcased in galleries across Canada and around the world. He received numerous honors throughout his career, including the Order of Canada. At the Assembly of First Nations Annual General Assembly in Montreal, delegates took a moment of silence to honor John Vier. In 2014, as a guest on APTN in Focus with Cheryl McKenzie, John Vier spoke about his path to becoming an artist, one that began in a seminary but only lasted 4 months over spiritual differences.
They asked me, what would I like to be? Well, I said I would like to be a priest and an artist. And the man across the table from me, the director or rector, whatever your title was, he stared at me for quite a while, and then he says, "I'm sorry, you can't serve two masters." I said, "Well, in that case, get me the heck out of here."
Condolences to his family and the many, many people impacted by his work over the years. Coming up after the break, we'll speak with Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand about a historic upcoming announcement. Stay with us. Welcome back. Here's a look at your current conditions. 19 in Halifax, 20 in Fredericton. Cloudy and 9 for Kuujjuaq and Nain. 20 with showers in Montreal, 17 and cloud in Val-d'Or. 18 in Sault Ste. Marie, showers and 17 for North Bay. Sun's out in 12 in Thunder Bay, 13 in Sioux Lookout. 23 under the sun in God's Lake, 32 already in Puckatawagan. Sunny and 22 in Winnipeg. Sun's out in 23 in Dauphin. 20 under the sun in Regina, 23 in Saskatoon. 32 at this hour in Meadow Lake, sunny and 24 in La Ronge. Over in northern Alberta, already 32 in Peace River, 19 in Fort McMurray. 22 under the sun in Edmonton, showers, and 25 in Lethbridge. 17 in Vancouver, 22 and sunny in Kamloops. 20 under the sun in Prince George, cloudy and 16 in Smithers. 18 in Old Crow, 14 in Whitehorse. 13 in Yellowknife, 17 and cloudy in Norman Wells. 2 in Sax Harbor, 7 in Polituck. 17 in Whale Cove, cloudy and 11 in Arviette, plus 1 in Resolute, 11 in Arctic Bay. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew is set to announce the return of land to the Manitoba Métis. The Manitoba Métis Federation is hailing it as a historic day and for reconciliation and land back. The event will take place in St. Madeleine during the St. Madeleine Métis Days, an event honoring the community that was burnt to the ground to make way for cattle. It's a shameful part of history in the province that Manitobans are just starting to learn about in recent years. Back in 1939, a thriving Métis community of 400 people near Binscarth, 330 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg, was set ablaze by a rural government with the blessing of the provincial and federal governments to make room for a community pasture for settlers' cattle. In a statement, two citizens, MMF President David Chartrand says the Premier will make the announcement of the return of the land on July 19th. Chartrand says it's a landmark achievement in the ongoing pursuit of justice and reconciliation. And Sav Jones spoke with MMF President David Chartrand about this coming announcement on Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us, President Chartrand. What details can you tell us about how much land we're talking about and who does it go to?
Well, definitely first let's talk about St. Madeleine as the size of it was at the time. Of course, it was a small village. It had a school, of course, it had a church, and it had a very robust, really well-connected community. And so we're looking right now, how do we still have a grave site, people should know that. We still bury our relatives and families that come from St. Madeleine in the grave site. Before we used to ask permission to go into the grave site, but I think at this time they've been allowing us to go in and bury our loved ones there. The location of the site is particularly where the community was at this point in time. We're looking at 100 acres. It's the first initial transfer of land, and then from there looking to the completion of our initiative. And I won't go in great detail about how far that's going to go. But first and foremost is to get the community the graveyard and the surrounding location of where our festivities take place, and where the heartland of the community actually was.
Okay, and can you tell us how important is this announcement for the Métis people and the families of St. Madeleine?
Well, I think what's important here is to recognize that back in that era in 1930s, and this community of course stems way before that, and is a Métis village, and made up of families who work for surrounding communities and farmers and ranchers, and survived by hunting and having gardens and providing for their families, that there was a loving community there. And this country, which we love Canada, we went to war for Canada as Métis people to defend it and defend foreign other countries. But here we had a Métis community in the 1930s that this country gave to Prairie Farm Association of Saskatchewan to decide that a pasture for cattle was going to be more important than the entire village. That is the heart of the cut in our wounds that exist today, that cattle was more important than the Métis families and Métis communities. And that's something that resonates still. It's quite a direct hit to the heart and to our pride in people, that they would choose cattle over people. And no one in this country spoke against it. No one stood up and said it's wrong. And today the people have been dreaming about the day that they can call it home again. So it's this Friday at 5 o'clock with the Premier being there and the announcement being made, is going to be, I'm sure, a lot of shedded tears and a lot of joy and heartfelt thanks that we never gave up on something that was so important to us. But again, I can't as a leader get over the thought that in 1930s, after our people went to World War II to help fight for the country, that our people were treated the way they were, that cattle was more valuable than a human being called a Métis.
Yeah, and July 19th is when Premier Wab Kinew will make that announcement. And what do you think this means going forward for the Red River Métis people?
Well, two things first for me. It shows the promise made by the Premier before he became Premier at our annual assembly in 2023, where he talked about correcting the history and the correction of Louis Riel being recognized the first Premier. The Louis Riel Act then now has become, as a royal assent, it's now in power in this province. And he also promised that St. Madeleine would come home to the people. So I want to give kudos, of course, to the Premier for keeping his word to our people. And as I said, people have been dreaming for this for decades and decades and decades, that one day they can go home. And to people out there that do not know St. Madeleine, it's near the border of Saskatchewan, and it's not a very rich land. And that's why we're still lost to the position of this country that they would just burn the entire village down and throw the people out living in tents and road allowances, trying to find a place to live after with their families, and that cattle was more important, and nobody stood up for our people. That is something I will never forget as long as I live and breathe as the leader.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is obviously a very long time coming, but can we expect more announcements similar to this in the future?
Well, I think you can. Once we get possession of the land, we will be looking at what do we do next. We're looking at for a landmark, for example, to tell the history and the story, because it should not be forgotten. We're a young country called Canada, so we need to remind ourselves of what happened, what took us to where we are today, and what are the struggles. When you look, like for example, this book, St. Madeleine, the Community Out of Town, it talks with the living people that were impacted, and the feelings, the hurt, and sometimes the questions of why. How could this have happened to me? Like, why did it do this to all my family? Like, it just left us homeless with nothing. So you could just feel that, and some just said, that's the way they treat us anyway. So they just kept on moving and trying to find a place to live and survive. So, but it just shows you that, these people who felt such great pain and disgrace, most of them are now gone. They've passed away. But they were young kids. John Fleury tells me the story. He's now passed, that he was just a young boy coming home with his dad after hunting for going out for quite a long time, seeing the smoke coming out as their village was burning. And how he felt as a child at that time, and he died, one of our elders. And so when you look at the hardship these people must have felt, you can't probably describe inside their heart and their feeling at the time, but the pain must have been great. And so as a Métis government, we're making sure that reconciliation is not just a word, it's going to mean something. I think Wob is showing that his promise means something, his word means something, and so does mine. So I'm truly looking forward to the announcement on Friday at 5 o'clock in St. Madeleine, and I'm looking forward to doing what's the next plans for the land itself after we talk to the families and community.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning about the hardship that the citizens there felt, and this is obviously a very momentous occasion. So I thank you so much for joining us today, President Chartrand.
No, thank you for having me.
Will make for quite the St. Madeleine days this year. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News. Again, to recap our top story, admitted serial killer Jeremy Skibicki has been found guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder. Court is still underway at this hour, but we'll have details and reaction tonight on your APTN National News at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, there will be updates throughout the day on our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here in a couple hours.